The profound and wondrous Dharma is rarely encountered, even 100 million kalpas, having yet to hear, accept, and maintain. May I taste the truth of the Tathagata's words.
Well, good morning, everyone. How is the volume? Constance, are you unmuted? I'm getting an echo.
It's Constance on a device.
Okay, that's better. That did it.
She mutes her.
So this morning, I would like to talk about motherhood and to celebrate mothers. And while we're all mothers of someone or something, a person, a plant, a pet, or a project, especially those of you who are biological mothers, gratitude for what you have put into it and what has come out of it. Everyone needs a mother of some kind, someone who is dedicated and responsible and who has a foundational bond. Constance and I, my wife and I, for instance, have an agreement, whoever brings a plant home is responsible for that plant, to put it in the ground and to care for it and to water it. And of course we collaborate, but still everyone needs a mother. All beings are therefore, in a way, our children, to be loved, nourished, and protected. And we are dependent on them in turn. And children also call forth the mother in us, as mothers call forth the child in us. So there is a mutual coming forth in this. I have to say to Jisho, our founder, deep gratitude to you for skillfully mothering this whole new North American Soto Zen practice center. The Stone Creek Sangha has become both mother and child to many of us over the past 20 years. In the South, where I grew up, there's a very sweet custom that on Mother's Day, you wear a rose to church. You wear a red rose if your mother is still living, and you wear a white one if she's not. So I'd like to acknowledge and invite our personal mothers, our birth mothers, to join us here today. And we can do that by naming them, because to name is to invoke. There are some Buddhist groups who make that their main practice, and they chant the name of Buddha over and over. So let's invoke our mothers by calling out their names. Don't have to unmute, just say her name 3 times in a spirit of welcome and invitation. Ruby, Ruby, Ruby. Okay, thank you. So now that we're gathered together with the memories of our personal mothers, we say from the bottom of our hearts, thank you, Mother. All beings are our mother. In our 4.5 billion years together on this planet, we have had time for the material that we are made of to cycle through innumerable, constantly changing forms and arrangements, plant, animal, and mineral. I'd like to go on and on about that, but not today. Today, I want to talk especially about Prajnaparamita, translated as the perfection of wisdom. Personified, she is also known as the mother of the Buddhas. And since you are all Buddhas, she's your mother too. And you, as you are embedded thoroughly in the great non-dual Buddha nature matrix. When the stay-at-home order came, we were in a 6-week special practice period studying the 6 perfections or paramitas that are the basis of how we live and practice as Buddhists. That study is now continuing online. Those 6 perfections are morality, generosity, patience, vigor, meditation, and wisdom. Generally, we try to encourage those qualities in our daily lives, not that we're any better at it than anybody else out there on the street, but they are a beautiful part of our 2,500-year heritage, and the vow to realize them is the Bodhisattva way that we aspire to. To personify is to take a collection of qualities or attributes and give them an identity as if they are a person. Tibetan tankas are like that. Personified, this perfection of wisdom, prajnaparamita, is seen as frankly feminine, as maternal, as a figure of light and clarity, as mother of the Buddha way. Personification may not be your cup of tea. It's not a belief system. We're not getting theistic here. Please just consider it for a moment as a mythopoetic image that may help us make sense of things and take from it what might be helpful. Prajnaparamita, the utmost wisdom, the wisdom that has gone completely beyond, over the top wisdom. The hymn to Prajnaparamita is in the 7th chapter of a long text that is basic to our form of Buddhism called The Perfection of Wisdom in 8,000 Lines, written in Sanskrit about 2,000 years ago. This hymn is chanted by various Buddhist groups now around the country, and it was introduced into the liturgy in the 80s to help, or 70s actually, to help offset a dearth of female images in the standard services that we inherited from Soto Zen practice in Japan. And it goes like this. Homage to the perfection of wisdom, the lovely, the holy, the perfection of wisdom gives light. Unstained, the entire world cannot stain her. She is a source of light, and from everyone in the triple world, she removes darkness. Most excellent are her works. She brings light so that all fear and distress may be forsaken, and disperses the gloom and darkness of delusion. She herself is an organ of vision. She has a clear knowledge of the own being of all dharmas, for she does not stray away from it. The perfection of wisdom of the Buddha sets in motion the wheel of Dharma. Buddha Mama, mother as Buddha, Buddha as mother. Here are combined the great awakening of the Buddha and the heartful wisdom of the great mother for the benefit of all beings. So she sets in motion the wheel of Dharma, birthing it in a sense. She shines the true wisdom eye that informs and guides us in the practice of the other paramitas, morality, generosity, patience, vigor, and meditation. If you can't see the way right before you, how will you know the path as you walk? We depend on this eye of wisdom to see how to move forward on our path, how to be more patient, more giving, more energetic, how to sit more wholeheartedly, and how to live more in accord with the precepts. Wisdom is also a precondition of compassion, and compassion is itself seen as an expression of wisdom. So wisdom and compassion are intertwined, actualizing each other. They are like twining vines, closely associated. Wisdom enlarges compassion, compassion enlarges wisdom. So prajnaparamita, this perfection of wisdom, is both the vision we need to see the way forward through the darkness of delusion, and is also the wise mother who takes our hand and models compassion for all beings through her compassion for us. This compassion is unconditional. We don't have to do anything to deserve it. Thank goodness. It is available to us as the solidity of stone or the movement of wind. It won't protect us from the bad results of bad behavior, but it may help us to know the difference. There's an interesting crossover in the image of Kuan Yin, or Avalokiteshvara, the personification of mercy and compassion. Kuan Yin is often pictured as having eyes in the palms of her hands, suggesting that compassion depends on the unity of the eye and the hand, of wisdom and action. Action without wisdom is blind. Wisdom without action is futility. Motherhood is intense for us mammals. It is our most basic condition for survival. Maybe not so much for reptiles, fish, or invertebrates, but we mammals must survive usually lengthy and sometimes complicated relationships with our mothers. First, there's the intense identity of the infant and the mother as one body with one breathing system and one digestive system. Then after birth, it takes about 8 months outside the womb before we gradually realize, sometimes with shock and surprise, that mother and I are separate beings and don't always have the same desires, habits, and schedule. Thus begins a long loneliness. Thus begins a feeling and illusion of separateness that may persist until we eventually awaken to the realization of that unity that is the underlying nature of this interdependent universe. Of course, we are both unique and particular at the same time, but awakening to the unity dispels loneliness for a time until we forget again. I've been incredibly fortunate to be married for many years to a home birth midwife who attends the great mystery of the birth process. One of Constance's mottos is trust birth. Your body knows how to do this. Well, your heart knows something about it too. Sometimes I got to mother her when she would come home exhausted after a marathon labor and delivery. She is proudest that she midwifed all 6 of her granddaughters, that her daughters trusted her that much. I really enjoyed being around my stepdaughter, Rosie, Constance's youngest daughter, when she first became a mom. It was a huge change in Rosie's life to give up all her plans, at least temporarily, and a lot of her favorite activities to devote herself to this radiant little being, Samaya. There was no doubt in Samaya's mind that she had her own separate will. She was quite vocal about it. Still, Rosie was so patient with her and so tuned into her that Samaya was toilet trained almost from infancy. In fact, it was rare for her to wear a diaper. They practiced elimination communication. Rosie tuned into the subtle signs that infant Samaya needed to go, and that seemed to encourage Samaya to amplify the signals. At 18 months, Samaya could proudly say poo-poo and be taken to the potty. Samaya is 8 years old now and still a delight, still radiant. Google diaper-free baby if you want to learn more about this. I have to reflect on how incredibly valuable that motherly ability is to be able to tune in so intently? And how many people would benefit from it who feel that they are not important and that they are not heard? Your mother holds the story of your life. She dried your tears, washed the smudges around your mouth, cleaned between your toes, behind your ears. There's a wonderful kind of mindfulness in this loving attention. She drove you to play practice and worked hard to keep food on the table. She often sacrificed her own desires to make way for your growth and welfare. Motherhood seems to call forth, oh, excuse me. Okay. She often sacrificed her own desires to make way for your growth and welfare. Motherhood seems to call forth the development of all 6 of those paramitas of morality, generosity, patience, energy, meditation, and wisdom. So motherhood is as big a training ground for Mahayana Buddhism, that is the Buddhism of the Bodhisattva, as our traditional monastic practice. How fortunate that now, as we move forward toward more lay-oriented ways in North America, parental practice may be combined for our great hope and benefit with the monastic practice. And I want to just express my gratitude and great delight that we have head teachers, Dojin and Korin, who combine those, and we get to be in on it to some degree. So here we are together today, only because each of us had a mother who not only fed and cleaned us, but kept us from running out into the path of that speeding truck that came around the corner. Thank you, Mother. Why did she do all that work for so little reward? There is a quality of selflessness and unconditionality in mother love that models for us the Bodhisattva ideal. You first, then me. I remember my own mother. Whenever she made fried chicken for Sunday dinner, she pretended that the back or the neck was her favorite piece, so the rest of us could have our choice of the better parts. Why did she do that? Well, it's a mom thing, and it's also a bodhisattva thing. The bodhisattva is a way seeker just like you, who wants awakening not just for herself, but for all beings. You first, then me. But then the likelihood is that your mom did those kind of things also because you were such a brilliant and delightful child. You were. I know you were. Just look at the faces of these people on your screen. It's still shining through despite everything. She found you irresistible and wanted more than anything to make life be good for you. I think the Great Mother set it up that way for us mammals. Of course, that's not the whole story. The potency of the relationship continues. Lots of us have had problematic relationships with our mothers. For one thing, mothers really know how to push our buttons. After all, they installed them. But it works both ways. In such an intimate relationship, of course, we learn how to hurt each other. Some people say that forgiving our parents is a lifelong project. We may think it's finally done, only to discover there is yet another layer of guilt and shame to deal with. I guess forgiveness also works both ways, and we have to forgive ourselves at the same time we forgive our parents. I used to be in a men's group called Mother Bear's Sons. There were two men in the group that had been pretty seriously molested as children. Both of them seemed to carry more anger and hurt toward their mothers for not protecting them than they did toward the perpetrators. Sometimes we would stomp and growl around a circle, invoking the spirit of Mother Bear, protector of the children. They learned to find within themselves what they had wanted from their mothers. Many of us grow up under-mothered for one reason or another and live with a nagging mother hunger. Generally, gradually, we learn to mother ourselves, to accept, love, protect, and nurture ourselves. We learn so much about how to love from our mothers. If your mother didn't learn how to love very well from her own mom, it may have been hard for her to show her love for you. Still, I think it is safe to believe that she wanted to do it well and that she really tried. Often we understand our parents when we have children of our own. Thank goodness we learn from negative experiences as well as positive ones. Even as children, we may vow to ourselves, if I ever have a child, I will not treat her this way. And later, as parents, manage to fulfill that vow. But then we inevitably make other mistakes, which will be material for our own mutual journey of forgiveness and relationship. A few years ago, I was elected chaplain of the Sebastopol Grange. One of the chaplain's duties is to open meetings with a prayer. A little problematic for me, having been an atheist most of my life. But I've learned that I can do this personification, this poetic device, in a convincing way that serves the purpose. So I open the meetings by praying something like, "Oh, great mother, thank you for the sun, for the rain, for the fertility of the soil, for the support of all beings who make this moment manifest." And it works. I feel it. We all do. There was a time that I felt the identification of Earth as mother could lead humans to have more care and regard for the planet. And then came to realize that no, the word mother does not necessarily bring that out. There are people who, in their suffering, are quite willing to colonize, exploit, and exile the mothers, to deny their authority, to dismiss their counsel, and are willing, in their suffering, to treat the earth and the other forms of life the same way. This has been going on for about 5,000 years at least. It is characterized by men in power who act as if they have no mother to help them exercise the wisdom and compassion to nurture and care for future generations, or to safeguard the life support systems that sustain all of us. Now there are signs that we may be approaching the end game of that dark dream. What we might call cowboy hegemony has dominated so much of human society for so long. This has now brought us to this existential crisis of climate disruption, population overshoot, and the sixth great extinction. However it came about, without our mother's authority, we are in danger of destroying everything we love. We need the mother's counsel desperately. We really, really need their leadership to bring some kind of civility back into society. During the American Civil War, there was horrendous carnage, battlefields strewn with wounded and dying men. There were reports at the time that the last words of the dying were often calling for their mother. I want to make that call right now. In our minds, let us invite Prajnaparamita, the spirit of wisdom and compassion, the spirit of unconditional love and regard for each other and for all of our planetary companions, the spirit of responsibility for future generations of people of all species. Our imagination is a powerful ally. It's the only thing that we know of that's faster than the speed of light. It is often the first step in manifesting reality. If you can't imagine it, you can't do it. So opening that imagination is a key step in changing what needs to be changed. At the basic level of human interaction, imagine that we establish a new normal based on things we learned from our mothers, like be nice, don't hit, use your words, take turns, share. I've seen a lot of that in this pandemic. At the level of social organization, imagine institutions based on truth-telling, collaboration, and mutual support. I see that happening in institutions that I'm connected with, like the Grange, for instance. At the level of policy, imagine mothers in charge of population policy, the Pentagon, how about that? And the medical system. Imagine mothers in charge of legislation, of the police and the courts. I'll end with this poem. What do you need to hear from her, that great mother who gathered you up out of oneness and sent you forth into this manifest world? What could possibly ease the tightness in your heart after these many costly years? If she told you that all is forgiven, could you believe her? If she said, come home, there is always a place for you here. What if she offered you a special blessing, say the wetness of rain or the greenness of new grass? Could you receive that as proof of her sincerity? Or if she said she was so delighted with your beauty and your cleverness, and she was so proud of you and wanted more than anything to take you on her starry lap and hold you and love you up, then would you listen? Or would she have to twist your ear? So I have to say gratitude for this gradual gathering of wisdom and compassion. Gratitude to Prajnaparamita, the perfect wisdom mother, for her help in walking the Buddha way in this real world. Well, thank you so much for being here. And I miss the give and take of interaction, being with an interactive audience. So maybe we can all unmute now, or maybe unmute one at a time, as whoever would like to make a comment or a question.
Myozen, this is Donna. And I just want to thank you. That was the best ever Mother's Gift.
Donna, it looks like you're trying to say something, but I'm not hearing it.
Okay.
Oh, I got it now. I got it.
Okay. I just wanted to say thank you for a most wondrous Mother's Day gift. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna.
Myozen? It's Holly.
Yes.
Okay, I'm wondering what you say to people whose mothers didn't want them.
Well, I have to say, we want you. Let us be your mother. We want you. You know, eventually everybody has to find it within themselves. We have to mother ourselves, and you know, in the last hurrah.
Thank you, Barton. That was really lovely.
Oh, you're welcome, Genevieve. Good to see your face.
You too.
Thank you, Barton. Happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day to you, Guy. You're a good mom, Guy, I have to say.
Yes. Thank you. It was a very touching talk. I'm moved to want to send it to my mother or listen to it again with my mother, and I'm wondering if you've recorded it.
Oh, I didn't.
Okay.
It is.
It's being recorded. Yeah, we'll have it on. It takes a little bit to put it on the website, but it will be available.
Okay.
Be on the
'Cause
Stone Creek website. Very good.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you.
Yeah, it'd be so fun. I'm visualizing listening to it with my mom and being able to celebrate her with her.
Oh, yes. Well, you called her name.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Myozen,
Yes.
you answered a very special wish for me this morning in honoring mothers, because I woke up, it's my mother's birthday, May 10th. And I woke up with the question, what could I do, you know, that would be special to remember her? And then here we are. Here's your talk and all the love it invokes, and attention of mothers, to mine, and to all of our mothering. But very special. Thank you.
Thank you, Liz.
Myozen, it's Ellie here.
Yeah. Hi, Ellie.
Hi. I just want to thank you for your humor and your enthusiasm and your just delightful way that you speak and present. It's such a pleasure to be here on the other side and just feeling you come through the computer. It's really amazing. And I am right there, as you know, your partner in having the earth be my mother. And, you know, my mother died 20 years ago, and that whole process of learning to mother myself has been a very, very difficult, but unbelievably rewarding. And, you know, I feel like I'm holding hands with her.
Yeah. Thank you, Ellie.
Thank you, Barton. That was beautiful. Both tears and laughter. Just a wonderful combination to honor the divine feminine and all life. Thank you.
Oh, good to see you, my dear friends from Mendocino.
Yeah, good to see you, Barton. Thank you for the clarity on, what was it? It was something without action.
Wisdom.
Oh yeah, wisdom without action is
Beautiful.
futility.
Yes.
I've felt a lot of futility at times, and now I understand it better. Thank you.
Thank you.
Martin?
Yes.
Hilton, I have another question for you. You had this wonderful quotation about halfway through about how forgiveness is a lifelong project. Can you tell me that again, what the full thing said?
let's see, I don't know who I'm speaking to here. I don't have all the,
But
Holly? Oh, Holly. A lifelong project. Let's see, where did I first hear that? I don't know. It may have been from my friend Eileen English, or my friend Nancy Burns, or it could have been from Alice Jean, or I don't know. I don't know where it came from.
but you had it like in relation to mothers and children.
Um,
Can you put it back?
yes, yes. Well, you know, when you start going into what, you know, your childhood traumas and things, you always have to come up against what did you get from your parents and what did you not get, and oftentimes that is brought up close and personal when you have children of your own. And so it's a starting place for everybody's project of self-inquiry. And there's always pain involved, I believe. Some people seem to, you know, have a really good relationship with their parents from an early age, and others struggle with it their whole life. So it's not the same for everyone, but it's an element for everyone, I believe.
Hey, Barton, can you hear me? It's John here.
Oh, John.
I like your discussion about the forgiveness, and that one comment where you said that as a child, if there's things that you're having problem with your parents, or how your parents are treating you, like how my parents were treating me, that you, at that point, you say, when I have a child, I'm going to do it different. I'm going to be different. I'm going to be there. I'm going to do whatever I wanted my parents to do and they didn't do. And
yes,
that's sort of how I raised my son. And it just reminded me of that, because my parents were really, my brother would joke that we were raised by wolves, so we didn't get much support from my parents. But my son, that was my vow. That was my vow, that it would be different for my son. And that's what I did. Thank you for bringing it up again, especially on Mother's Day.
How fortunate that we can learn from our negative experiences with our parents as well as the positive ones.
Myozen.
Yes.
Dojin. I just was, you're talking throughout your talk, as you were talking about the Council of Mothers. Yeah, I think it's just so important, and it's not exclusive to women or mothers, biological mothers or adopted mothers. It's our maternal instinct, but the council of our maternal wisdom, But it did make me think of how the countries that are kind of thriving in the pandemic are ones that are all ruled by women.
I've noticed that, yes, that's been reported.
Yeah, and I just wanted to second and deepen this request that we don't dismiss the Council of Mothers, because we're taught to, when in our culture we're taught to dismiss the voices of women and that maternal voice and the feminine voice, but I think it's really time
yes
to listen both internally and externally to those voices, and to fight the things that tell us we should dismiss them.
Absolutely. And mothers are given so much responsibility, and then they're not given power to meet that responsibility. So this is a power issue.
Power to the mamas.
Oh, Barton, this is Karen.
Yes.
I loved your vision of like when you invited us to visualize the Pentagon being run by women or by mothers, and healthcare being run by mothers. Thank you for that. That was a great vision. And I also loved the invitation to remember that we're all mothers and we're all children, and how we mother each other, and we also are the child for each other.
Yeah.
It reminds me of how symbiotic our relationships are and intertwining.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yes, and how big and complicated we all are.
Yeah, and how simple at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited about this new visualization. I had never actually considered mothers in that specific way of running the Pentagon or being, running Congress. It's very exciting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, hold that vision.
Yeah.
Make it happen.
Yeah. Mama power. We were
Yeah,
on
yeah.
our way here, on our way to your talk, like this morning, we were downtown Sebastopol, and we saw this car that had been painted on it as when people paint on a car when people get married, saying just married. And what it said in Spanish was Happy Mother's Day.
Oh,
And the women, there were two women in it, and they had like balloons, and they had like all this decoration around the car. It was
sweet.
totally fun. Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah.
I was just thinking of your comment about mothers in the Pentagon. Well, we have a mother in Congress, Congresswoman Pelosi. I just thought, wow, there you go.
But let's not forget Betsy DeVos.
Yes, of course.
I just
Oh,
wanted to,
I can't. Oh, it's.
hello?
Thank you, Sonia. My mom. Okay, Richard. Okay, Richard, you did it. I hope she saw that.
Myozen,
Yes.
it's Jude.
Jude?
Yes, hi.
Oh, hi, Jude.
Hi, Myozen. Same as everybody, thank you for once again bringing poetry and wisdom and compassion the way only you can. And I just wanted to say, in relation to power and in relation to mothers, I read something wonderful that I love, which was in regard to the pandemic. And you were saying the nations that are thriving have been run by women. And I remember when the Prime Minister of New Zealand declared the Easter Bunny as an essential worker. That she went on TV, I believe, and to reassure all the children in New Zealand that yes, indeed, the Easter Bunny was not quarantined and that they could expect the usual. And I thought a number of things. First of all, how wonderful, delightful, charming, heartfelt, loving, all the adjectives. But the other one was how courageous, how friggin' courageous to unapologetically just say that without fear of being made fun of or having to explain. And I think that that's the power that we have to seize, that unapologetic channeling of what we know comes from deep in our hearts, and that will therefore reach others deep in their hearts and is what they need. So calling on everybody to channel your heart and channel the great mother, and don't apologize.
Yes, I want that.
I want that too. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Let's see, maybe one more.
Thank you, Barton. That was a beautiful talk. It made me think of my own mother, who perhaps I'm not alone in although I had a lifelong experience of her love, there was some other stuff that happened that, you know, I had to deal with, and but the vision of the perfection of wisdom and Prajnaparamita was really beautiful. I appreciate you explaining your prayers at the Grange, because I always wondered about that. Like, how is that Buddhist guy praying? I also wanted to mention that the service for Alice Jean yesterday was so radiantly beautiful. I wasn't there at the very end, but there was a radiance of her spirit there and her love, and with people who spoke the depth of emotion and longing and sadness and recognition of her as a beautiful being was really extraordinary. And it brought to mind, especially on Mother's Day, my own feeling of Stone Creek and the Sangha as a mother, in that we come together, and that although there are differences among us, and still we come together with a heart of love. So thank you, Barton.
Thank you, Tomas. Shall we conclude?
Four great Bodhisattva vows. Beings are numberless. I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them. Dharma gates are infinite. I vow to enter them. The Buddha way is boundless. I vow to realize it.